Hey everyone, welcome back to the Waxing Podcast. I'm really excited, actually particularly excited because we get to take a blast from the past and bring back and revive an old guest who was actually on the very first episode as a guest onto the Waxing Podcast. So I want to reintroduce Savannah.
Hi guys, I'm so glad to be back. This is it's been a whirlwind, and looking back on where I was when I did the first interview to now is so crazy.
I mean, think about that as like for both of us.
Right? Exactly. We were both just like, okay, we're going to send it and see how it goes. And we both just have been killing it. It's so amazing to see your progress with the podcast and literally everything else you're doing. I speak so highly of you.
Aww.
In every aspect that I can when I'm out training, and people, obviously everybody uses fur, and if I see it in a training accounts room, I'm like, hi, do you know Kirsten?
Aww.
You need to have her training with fur.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, I look back on that. And okay, so for everybody that wants like a backstory onto the first episode of the podcast, longest story short, but Savannah was a client of mine before she went to esthetician school. And I remember I gave her one rule because I was so excited for her to go to esthetician school. But I said, Savannah, your only rule going to school is that you do not let anybody touch your fucking eyebrows. You come to me and you let me do it, and look at them. They're perfect because she did that exact same thing. So whenever she became an esthetician, I was in awe with her because she quickly went from being an employee to a business owner, and she really navigated during all of those hard times. And why I wanted to bring her back on is because she actually moved since then, and she's had to completely redo her business. So for anybody that's listening, that's like, you know, everybody who's been on the podcast, you know, that's has given tips, like we're now in 2023, and Savannah's going to be the perfect guest because she literally just made this transition. And we're going to talk today about how she has gained a clientele and all of the good nuggets that she has to bring. But when it came time to launch my podcast, I was like, Savannah, you have to be my first guest. Like, obviously, because I want to learn about your business, but then also because I already feel comfortable with you. I know that it wasn't going to be like so hard to do my first interview with someone I knew and loved. But then also, like, if I completely fucked up, it was like, Savannah.
It's totally going to be fine.
But
you didn't, though. You killed it.
We did it. I was like on, at the time, a computer that I didn't even own. I was like, I had like a gaming, like headphones on. Oh my God. It was just so old school. And like, honestly, Savannah, that episode I think has been the most viewed out of the entire podcast series, because you really do have so many great nuggets from there. And I can't even believe that it was so many years ago, because you're about to like do it all over again. So I'm so excited.
Yeah. I'm so excited to dive into everything. So yeah, it's been a crazy journey. I am currently looking at so much snow, and this time last year, I was already here. So I guess 2 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to convince me that I was going to move to Montana. Like, it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, because you went from here. Of course, I'm in Tampa, Florida, for those that don't know. And Savannah picked up and left. And it was a really tough decision, right? Because, I mean, you just worked so hard to build a clientele. And, like, we know how hard that is. And then you had to go and you redid the entire process.
I did, yeah. And that was something that a lot of people, whether they were true friends of mine or not and had my best interest in mind, were like, are you sure? Like, are you actually serious about this? But Kirsten was not one of those. Kirsten was like, yes, girl, go do your thing. You need to be happy. If you can do it in Tampa, you can do it anywhere. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, a little bit about me. I've been an esthetician for 4.5 years now.
So, and like crazy.
Said, it's freaking
crazy.
We've been through, so I like to talk about our friendship as well. I tell people, like, yeah, I started seeing Kirsten for my brows in high school, and then I went to aesthetic school, didn't let anybody touch my brows, and thank God they're still intact. And, yeah, and then, like, we became such good business friends and just evolved. Like, this friendship that we have is so important and near and dear to my heart. No. And, yeah, so I worked for a company for about 1.5 years, and it was a full-service salon, so we did full body waxing. They had a hair side. We did facials, obviously, lashes, brows, all the things. And then I had quite a whirlwind. I got pushed into a corner and it was like new owners, crazy non-compete, and it was like, okay, you either sign this non-compete and move in with these people and go full throttle, or you back out right now, because at the time I wasn't bound. I can't speak.
Binded, bound. I like, honestly, it sounds all the same to me.
I'm not bound to a non-compete yet. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go open my own business. Okay, bye. So that's what I went and did. And that was right before Christmas of 2019. And then I officially opened January 11th of 2020, and then COVID hit. So had to deal with that, and very quickly learned how to pivot with any kind of business hurdles that you have to jump over. And luckily, being in Florida, we weren't closed for too long, but it was really scary. And the relationship that I was in at the time, my boyfriend was like, is this really a good idea? Are you sure? Are you sure? And I'm like, no, but I've already done it now, so sending it, and it's going to happen.
Yeah, you've already done it.
Best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
Like, it was going to happen regardless. I had made up my mind, and that is one thing about me. Like, when I make my mind up about something, that's it. I'm going to make it happen one way or another. But then I was open for just over 2 years in Florida, and then I decided to move to Montana. Crazy.
You're like, bomb.
Yes. So I moved from, obviously Tampa's a very saturated city. I moved from a very saturated area to a rural mountain town, very small, year-round. We have about just over 1,000 people in this town, and then in the summertime, we're only about an hour and a half from the west entrance of Yellowstone. So we get a lot of tourist traffic and a lot of RV parks that fill up. So summertime is a lot busier, but this is my first full winter through Montana, and I haven't slowed down that much. I mean, I just happened to get some really good locals as clients when I first started, and then the referrals built off of that. So I didn't have time for walk-ins by the time summer came around.
Which is so amazing. And I know that you said you picked up and brought your business with you, but the scary thing is that yes, you can do all of those things, but that doesn't mean any client is following, especially obviously given how far you actually traveled outside of your home where you were from. And so, talking about, you already finding one location, tell me about the process of like finding a location in a state that you've never even lived in.
Right. So that I like have goosebumps right now. Everything was so aligned that I tell people that ask me all the time, because they're like, how did you end up in Ennis, Montana? Like, how did you find this place? And I just tell them, like, everything fell into place so easily that there was no way for me to say no. So I came out here for a longtime family friend's wedding, and then fell in love with the community, went home. My boyfriend that I was talking about earlier broke up with me, and I was like, okay, perfect. Great timing, because I really wanted to move to Montana. I told him that, and he was like, no way, not happening. So then I moved, and I moved only for a couple of months at that time. So I just got in the truck, and I came over here, and I spent some time here and really got to know the community, if my services were really needed, and just took time to heal as well. Like, I had a lot of stuff going on personally, so it was just necessary. And they had a little festival here downtown at the end of fall, and I was walking downtown with that family friend that was letting me stay with her, and I walked into a building downtown that had a waxer, and she was leasing the building at the time. It was her second location. She had her first one in a more saturated city called Bozeman, which is about an hour from here. And I was like, so would you possibly be looking for another renter? Maybe. And she was like, actually, yeah, I'm moving to a different town here soon, so I won't be here in town, and there's not another waxer here. So I actually would love to bring you on as a renter, and then you can just like move into this space when I leave more full time. So that's what I did. I honestly can't say that I did anything strategic to find the place. It kind of found me.
That's amazing. I know, yeah, but still you have to then convince these new clients to see you and that your services were good and worthy of these people to return and become soul clients. Like, it's like, yeah, you can definitely build a clientele, but like to make them stay is the hard part,
That's the hard part. You can get them in the door, but making them come that second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on time, that takes a lot. And it can be very daunting. Like, there were many days when I first started here, because I opened just about a year ago, actually. Probably, I think it's next week sometime. So it was,
I can't believe you've already been there for a year. It's so crazy to think about.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It feels like it's been like a split second, but it also feels like it's been a lifetime that I've been here, because I just fit so well in this community. But so I started in that location downtown, and no one knew me here except my family friend and her husband. Like, nobody knew me, and I did the age-old SD thing. I went and got a bartending job, and I needed some extra cash. You know, you got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
And my manager there was so great. He was like, yeah, pass out your cards, do whatever, talk about yourself. So that was one way that I did start to put a name to my face. And it's very old school here. Like, social media is not as prevalent nearly as it is in other parts of the country whatsoever. Like, we have one community Facebook page that sometimes people check, sometimes people don't. It's way more word of mouth than anything. So that, I think, helped me just build a little bit of a rapport in the community. And then people were like, oh, you're the new girl. You're the esthetician.
Oh my God. It's like high
know?
school. They're like, you're the new girl. You're like, yeah, but like talking about, like, that just shows how small of an area you live in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I see many of my clients at the grocery store on any given moment. So, and I do go to the grocery store like everybody else does, you know, like sweats and a hoodie, and people just don't care here. Like, it just, we're in the dead of winter right now, so we all really know that it, like, we just don't speak about how we look sometimes.
I mean, I get it. I'm from the Midwest, and like every time in the winter, I'm like, you just wear the baggiest clothes, you eat all the carbs, and like everything that just makes you warm and cozy, and like no one talks about it until summer.
Exactly. And it's all fine.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. So like I said, I started out with a few local people, and then the referrals built off of that. So I have the age-old referral program of like, refer a friend, get $10 off for both of you, that kind of deal. And I still ran my review promotion. So if they left me a review on either Gloss Genius, which is my booking site, or Google, they'd get some money off. Or if they posted in the community Facebook group that we have. That was something that I added to that referral promotion, because that was where majority of people were going to look.
That's really smart. Going into like the technical side and like the paperwork side and the not so fun side, tell me a little bit about, because you kept your name, you kept your branding, a lot of that stayed for the most part the same. So tell me a little bit about how transferring all of that stuff happened. Because I know it's hard enough to like do it once, but then to like do it again. So yeah, tell me about it.
So I say it was way difficult, but I am so not tech savvy whatsoever. Like, the first person I hired when I opened my business back in Florida was a CPA and a bookkeeper. Like, I do nothing with the numbers. I want nothing to do as much of it as possible that I can be hands off with. Please make it that way. So I did the same thing here. I had my CPA back in Florida help me out. She actually helps my family friend that's here in Montana. So she is familiar with the state laws and all that good stuff as far as legality goes. She helped me transfer all that stuff over. That's my biggest piece of advice for anything, even if you're just opening a business to begin with, but also when you're moving states. Have somebody that does it professionally help you. Spend the money. It's worth it, especially when you're going somewhere you don't have any clue of how it actually works there, because a lot of government websites and state regulated stuff is just confusing.
Oh my God. I have an accountant. It was the first thing I did, and it was the best decision I've ever made. I know we're filming this right now in March. So when I tell you we're like all that have like CPAs, accountants, is that the same thing?
I think so.
Right? I'm like, that's how little I know about the government and the IRS. I'm like, honestly, I couldn't even tell you if those were the same effing people. But what I will tell you is that I got one immediately when I started the Waxing Guide LLC, because I knew right then and there I would be having to change the way I did my taxes. And like, holy shit, like all of the paperwork that she sends me that I just have to sign, and then like it goes back to her, and then she does all of the things. Like, I mean, I would never have an LLC. I would have been like, forget it. It's just too hard. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm like, please go spend the money. It's not that much.
No. And I mean, there are people out there that will charge you an arm and a leg. You have to kind of, I recommend asking somebody that's in the same industry, or at least somebody that has a small business that can refer you to an accountant and a bookkeeper. I also have someone that does both. Mm-hmm. Instead of paying a separate bookkeeper and an accountant, I have someone that just has a team that does all of it. But getting a referral for that is also a recommendation of mine, because there are so many people out there that will charge you so much more than you really need to pay just to make an extra buck off of you, because they know you don't know, and they can.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that. I think the best thing you can do is either find somebody that's like specializes in the beauty industry, which there are so many, or someone you know, and someone that has had a good experience, and somebody who has done many tax seasons or even just a few, and that can be like, this person's amazing. And then you now have the confidence, just like you would an esthetician, right? If I'm like, Savannah's amazing, like it already helps to bridge that trust factor into Savannah.
Right, exactly. Totally agree with you there. I mean, I've been through a couple. I went through a couple in Florida. I've been working with one that's here locally, which is really nice. I like to be local, and be able to just sit down with them and look at things, and they can ask me the questions and do the things, whatever needs to happen. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. And I know I talked about that on my very first interview as well. Just getting somebody that professionally works with your numbers and you trust is so important, because like you said, the amount of paperwork, I'd be like, are you kidding? How am I supposed to do this? I can't read all this. What? The stacks of paper that I get sent, that's just like one of them out of 20 need to be signed. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
For sure. I mean, honestly, like my accountant could be sending me like death papers, and like I could be willing my entire life to her, and I swear to you, I would be literally like, okay.
Yep, it'd be fine.
I'm like, sign here, right? Yes, I'm not reading anything. I'm like, just please make sure I don't go to IRS jail.
Yes. Oh my God, that's the biggest thing for me. I'm like, please just, I don't want to get in trouble. Just tell me how much money I need to send in or don't need to send in, and it's fine.
Yeah, and I'm like, but preferably this much, this many, $0. I'm like, yeah.
That'd be good.
Give me some back. Like, God, we deserve it. We like need to go and treat ourselves after treating people all goddamn year.
Yes, seriously. And then, I say this all the time, the healers need healing and the givers need getting. Like,
yeah,
you have to take care of yourself. And I was not. When I was in Tampa, I was not taking care of myself the way that I needed to. So when I decided to move, I said, I'm not working Saturdays anymore. I'm taking the time off that I want to take off. And that's just how it's going to be.
Tell me a little bit about how that has impacted or not impacted you, being more boundary, Yeah,
the boundaries have been hard. I am a huge people pleaser. I feel like so many estheticians are, because we want, at the end of the day, we want to make people happy, right? That's our end goal. We want to see that smile on their face, or we want to see them leave really relaxed. But moving here, I knew that weekends, the type of community that I've moved into, and Montana as a whole, the weekends people get outside. They're not getting treatments done. They're not getting their hair done. They're not really doing anything. Weekends usually start on Fridays. Like Thursday is the Friday here in Montana, and then they've got a 3-day weekend to go ski, camp, hike, fish, whatever the seasonal thing is to be doing outside. So Saturdays here are not a very big beauty industry day, which is the total opposite as opposed to Tampa. Like,
totally.
Tampa was my biggest day, or Saturday in Tampa was my biggest day. Always.
Yeah, we live in a very vain city. You don't anymore. I still do.
I'm still here, but no, I mean, there are people here, like, I know there's plenty of gals that are going to be listening from California, and I'm sure you guys will feel me on this, but there are a ton of people that come here from California either like 4 to 5 months out of the year, or they've moved here full time. So I have gotten a few vain, not so nice clients from the LA area, but it's literally been 2 that I can think of off the top of my head. They're not.
And Montana just has to rub them better. You know what I mean? Like maybe give them a few years and let them get the city life taken out of them.
Exactly. And then if they don't get it together, most people in Montana will just tell them, like, why are you such an asshole?
Yeah, we don't do that here,
No,
ma'am.
like, please don't ask for some crazy frozen margarita in this hole in the wall dive bar that you know doesn't have a blender.
For sure. Absolutely. So whenever you started to bartend and you were working as an esthetician at the same time, tell me a little bit about how that transition happened, and like more specifically how you ended up working for kind of following not following the path that I did, but now you and I can coexist doing two things together. Not only are we estheticians, but we now work for brands. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, let's see the year timeline. 2021, I think, is when I went to the Vegas show. And so the brand that I work for is Circadia. I have carried them since 2020. And during our break from COVID, I was reaching out to different brands and trying different ones and seeing what I wanted to bring in to use with SkinScript, which was the other line that I was carrying. I very quickly moved into Circadia fully as the only line that I was carrying. And 2021, I went to the Vegas show and I finally got to meet my rep in person. I absolutely loved her. Shout out to Ashley. If anybody uses Circadia and you had Ashley as a rep, you know the girl is fire and who I'm talking about here. But she was like, you need to be a brand ambassador and an educator. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, this exists for you guys? Like, I don't even know. Like,
Right.
It's kind of like an invite basis kind of deal, or it was. We're expanding and we're growing very fast, so we need more. But I applied, got through all of that, and was ready to take on all of the accounts from Tampa to Miami for any education that was needed, and then I decided to move. So that got put on the back burner for a little while and was something I still really wanted to do, but I had so much personally going on that I needed to deal with, and so much for my own business that I needed to get my ducks in a row for, obviously all the paperwork and getting my aesthetics license transferred over and just getting everything here, which was a task in itself. So I reached out to them and I was like, I still want to do this. I want to figure out a way to make this work. I know that I'm in absolute BFE. Like, I know I'm not going to have accounts here close to me, but I still want to be a part of this company. Like, they're phenomenal. I absolutely love working with them. The whole team is great, and our CEO and our owner, Michael Pugliese, is a gem to this earth. But it's been a transition because at one point I was working all three jobs. So I was bartending, doing aesthetics with my business, and traveling as an educator. So it was a lot. I was not home, like, at all.
Mm-hmm.
So then I decided, okay, I'm getting busier with the training. They're sending me pretty often to places. I go to Oregon, California, and the Midwest for the most part, and regional classes as well on top of trade shows. So I have a lot that I can do with them. It just depends on what I want to take on. And then I work in the studio 4 days a week now. So I was like, okay, time to get rid of the bartending job. I'm making enough money now, which was hard to do because finding help everywhere right now is difficult, but in a very small town, it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to leave them high and dry. I gave them like a month's notice, and then management changed there. So it was like a whole whirlwind of stuff that was happening. And then I ended up leaving. I still go there. I still feel like I need to just get behind the bar sometimes.
Yeah. But you can't. You have too many jobs.
Too much going on. And I am definitely that person that's like, I could just do like 2 shifts a week. Would that be fine, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm the same as you. I try to hold on to as many things as I can. It's like this subconscious like feeling of like letting people down. So I try to like thin myself out into whoever I can be for other people, that I end up burning myself out, and like I end up going through what I've recognized to be like moments that are not so fun, that I can understand and I can relate to that for sure.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It is so much. But
are you going to the IECSC show in New York?
I am not. I'll be at the Dallas.
Okay. Yeah.
And I will not be in Vegas. They asked me to work it, and I'm not even going to be there as a spectator because George Strait is going to be in Denver. And if you know anything about me personally, I am a through and through country girl. Like, my brand, if you look at my Instagram, you just know that that's just how I am. And George Strait is my number one bucket list concert I want to go to. So I was like, all right, Vegas will be there next year. George Strait's probably not going to do another stadium tour in my lifetime. So I'm going to Denver.
Yeah, for sure. I know I'm like up in the air if I'm going to go to the show either. Like, I guess if everything works out with my personal brand, I will be there. But other than that, I may go with Fur if we end up doing that show. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm really excited. I'll be in New York on the 5th through the 7th of March. So that's coming up. I leave Saturday, the 4th. And we're really excited because we just, I actually can share, not that it's like a secret, it's not that deep, but we got Kelly Baker to come to the booth. So if you guys are around in New York, I'm also playing this episode for tomorrow, Savannah. So like it's coming, it's like, I'm like, come on. If you guys can tell how indulgent I've been in the podcast world, no, I'm like turning and burning. I'm like, okay, let's do it on a Thursday. It comes out Friday, whatever. It makes me feel good in the moment. But if you guys are listening to this and you do not have tickets for ICSC and you want to meet Kelly Baker, then she's actually going to be at the Fur booth on Sunday, and she'll be there all day, and she'll be doing 3 demos, which is like a free training if you just like go, if you think about it, which she charges like $1,200 for. Of course, it's not one-on-one. She's just doing a demo, but still, I'm so excited. Kelly and I have like weirdly became friends through like my obsession with her, basically. So it's really cool. She's super excited, and I'm excited too.
That's going to be so fun. Speaking of brows, this is a fun little story for you guys. So when I decided to open my business, I was obviously seeing Kirsten every 3 to 4 weeks for my brows. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to do full body waxing. I don't want to do brows. They scare the hell out of me. Like, is that weird? Can I just do what I want? She was like, bitch, yes.
That's the whole point. It's the whole point of owning your own business.
Like, okay, light bulb. Duh, I can do whatever I want. Whatever. So that's what I did for 2 years. I just did Brazilians and underarms. But since I moved here, I really thought about the fact that if I didn't offer brows, people were going to have to drive anywhere from an hour to 2 hours just to get their brows done.
Oh my gosh.
Like, get over yourself, take some trainings, do some shit, practice on other people, do some model feeds, and get over your fear. So I've been doing brows now.
How are you feeling?
I like them.
They make people feel really good.
They do, and I've noticed that, like, the same kind of vibe that I get after giving a facial, people have the same, like, oh my god, like, they're just happy. And after doing lash lifts, like, that just, it changes their whole entire face. And when you can do a lash lift and their brows together,
it's amazing. I like how you said that, because yeah, like, I have a love-hate with brows. Like, I hate doing them, and not that I hate doing them, I just hate, like, they are really tedious. Like, and you compare them to a brow and then a Brazilian, and you think to yourself, like, Brazilians you can get done in 15 minutes and then get a higher percentage of a ticket. And then you do brows and it's much lower. It takes more time, and you have to actually like really pay attention and make sure that you are doing something. Like, it turns into more of an art, where like Brazilians, it's more about training. Like, if you are good at Brazilians, that's the best part, because the goal is just to take the hair away. But then brows, it's a consistent art because everybody's brows are different and yada, yada, yada. But so that's my love hate. It's like, I like them because I like the way that it makes people feel. I love whenever people are out on the weekends and like they have like that little bit of more, like, you know, like, yes,
totally.
bitch. I have my makeup on, I have my brows like fleeking, and I feel amazing. But if I could choose, I'd be doing Brazilians like all damn day.
I remember when you were still waxing pretty full time, and you finally told me, like, I fucking hate doing brows. And I was like, what? You're literally the brow queen. What are you talking about?
I know. And I just got, you know what it was, is that I got to a point, and so advice for anybody that's getting booked too many services that they don't want to have, because like we all kind of feel guilty about like taking that away from people, especially if you're like me and people just loved the way that I did them. Like I naturally became like the brow girl, all that stuff. And I was like, I don't fucking want to be the brow girl. But, you know, promote what you want to book. So like for me at the time, I was just sharing brow pictures because I didn't want to share Brazilians. It just isn't in my, it's not in me to do it. Like I think it's cool when other people do it. It's just like not what my page is. But what I was noticing is I was getting a ton of freaking brow people because like it's what I advertised. And so like if you are somebody who doesn't want to do as many brows and you want to do more Brazilians, but you don't want to post like pictures, I would suggest like posting just information around Brazilians and like teaching people about aftercare, teaching people about how to prep and all of that stuff. But at the time, I remember I looked back and I wasn't doing any of that. I was just posting brow videos and brows and then wondering why I was getting booked brows.
It is so crazy when you look back on things and you're like, well, duh, that's why that happened.
Yeah, duh. I know. And it's funny. I mean, but it's like all a learning process, which is why you moved, you opened up a clientele, like you at the time thought you were crazy, but now you've been there for a year and you realize it was like the best decision. And, you know, there is such a thing where like if you've been successful once, you can be successful in an unlimited amount of times. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, I will never forget a conversation that I had with my best friend at the time, and she was like, but you have spent so much time and effort and money and just so much energy on building this place, and you're almost ready to move into a storefront. Like, what are you doing? And I had to make the decision inside myself that I was never going to be happy in Tampa the way that I knew that I could be happy anywhere else in a mountain town, but more particularly in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained this to a lot of my clients, and I just asked their opinion, really. My close clients, not everybody. And they were like, yes, girl, you need to do this. And a lot of them were a little bit older, or they had moved from a different state as well, and they decided to come to Tampa. And they told me, one, if you don't do this, you're going to regret it in 25 years. For the what if, like, what if you did go and everything was so much better, but you didn't because you were too scared? Two, if you don't like it, you can come back.
Mm-hmm. I know. And I think I told you that same advice. I'm like, if you don't like it, you can just come back. I'm not from Tampa. So like, I think I came from that place too. I was like, oh my God, if I did not move to Tampa, I would have been so pissed at myself now that I look back on it. And so, yeah, I believe that if you can do it once, you can do it a million times. So tell me a little bit about, like, what's your next goals? Do you have any next goals? Or are you just living? You know what I mean? Like, what's...
Well, I'm living for sure. But I did just move locations, not to a bigger place, but just different. Like this one space that I was in when I first moved was just to get my foot in the door. I was sharing the space with at one point 2 people, and then it went down to 1. I was renting from a nurse injector, and we were sharing the space, and I absolutely love her. She's amazing, but I really needed the flexibility, especially with beginning the traveling with Circadia. I just needed to have that 7-day-a-week access and the flexibility with that if I needed to move clients to a Friday, even though I don't work Fridays or something to that effect, you know. So I just started in that location yesterday. I have not posted pictures or a reel of everything yet in that room because it's not perfect, and I'm waiting until it's like exactly how I want it. Because when I first started 3 years ago in Tampa, I didn't know what the fuck I wanted my brand to be. I changed things in so many different ways. I changed my colors. Thank God for Jay, because if it wasn't for Jay, my brand would still be a jumbled mess, I'm sure of it. But this space is finally like my second chance at not having to build a whole storefront, but just a suite, and do it exactly how I actually wanted it to be. I got a second chance. And now it's just like very low key, some sunflowers throughout, very clean lines, minimalistic and industrial with a touch of farmhouse. Like it's literally so perfect. I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm so excited to see it.
And I'm bringing on a couple different services, and I started a locals membership. So this is not your typical, like, anybody can be in the membership. It's locals only. So we have so many people here that still support us through the summer, which is great, but they're here in the winter and they still come and see me and support my small business when they are in the middle of winter as well. Like it's not easy to make it in this small of a town in the winter when there's not very many people here. So I wanted to give back to them, and I wanted to give them something that was helpful in the summer. So they just have to show me their license, and they paid a one-time fee. And the only stipulation is that they have to pay, or they have to book every 4 to 6 weeks. So that's a little insight for you guys for your membership. That can be a stipulation for you guys to make sure people are pre-booking and you're getting a decently set schedule a month in advance. Set up a membership and make people pre-book.
Mm-hmm.
So in return for doing that, they're getting complimentary add-ons depending on what service they get and depending on what the season is. So in the winter, I'm doing more hydration stuff, and in the summer, it'll be more cooling and, that kind of vibe, or an add-on for a lip treatment, something to that effect. And then they get first dibs on booking in the summer. So that's when we're busier, and that's when people feel like they get shoved to the back because we get so much busier.
Mm-hmm. Smart.
But they're still supporting us in the winter, so I feel like they deserve first come, first serve with that, for
right.
sure. And then bringing on brow lamination. So my goal, like small mini goal, is to get really good at the brow lamination stuff and brows, which is again so
I know.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at for goals. I really fought with myself because I wanted to do a hydrofacial so bad, and money wise and business wise, it makes so much sense. Because I would be the only person within a certain mile radius that has a hydrofacial. People would be coming to me from pretty far distances to not have to go into Bozeman or Helena, but it just does not align with where I personally am energetically and where my brand is as well. I'm following my personal path, and it is binding with my brand in a more holistic way. Like, I've found so much energetically through this journey to Montana, and it just doesn't match. I love the service. I'm trained in it. I love it for myself, but it's too much for what I'm trying to build with this brand. So I'm going a more energy route, more holistic and energy work. So I'm building a protocol soon. I deep dove into finding a new brand to bring on with Circadia that pairs well with them, but wasn't a minimum opening order that was a crazy amount, because that's something that I look for with brands, and I've always been that way. I want a brand that supports the solo esthetician and isn't just looking for a big buck,
I agree. I hate it with all passion and soul that some brands will give an esthetician something and not other estheticians simply because they won't spend $1,800 with them. You're like, it's whatever.
I'm so with you. And I hate that a lot of these 100% plant-based and holistic energy-based lines are that way, yet they sell to the public.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to do that, then you should definitely at least give the esthetician the incentive to go with you through that program. I agree.
Exactly. And I don't mind a $500 or even $1,000 opening order. That's about what you're going to spend anyway to really get what you need for at least a back bar. But requiring people to sell retail, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Requiring people to buy a certain amount of retail every quarter is bullshit.
I agree with you.
Because you carry 3 lines and you want to cherry pick and customize and build a true one size for that one person routine at home, and you can't do that with just one line majority of the time.
I agree. I think that all lines have their stars, so you should be able to pick 3 lines and see which ones you like the best out of all of them. I mean, not one line can get it perfect except for Circadia and fur. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But it's something about Circadia and fur. There are so many aftercare waxing lines out there that pair well with fur, and there are so many other lines for skincare that pair well with Circadia as well. I feel like they're both chameleon lines.
I love that. I love that perspective of it, like a chameleon line, for sure. So just to really wrap it up for today, thank you so much for coming on. What do you feel like you would like to say to somebody who is like new? You know, I know you're not new, but I think your opportunity of conversation today really helps a number of people. I think if they're not new, but they want to move, or I think in general, like you starting over does make you a new esthetician all over again. So like, what does like your advice, and this was like so requested, by the way, everyone's like, can you bring somebody on that like just opened their business and like just is starting out and like mistakes and things like that. So any advice to give to really either of those type of people?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like my situation is very unique because I started and then I was able to take the mistakes that I made the first time and either change them or not make the same mistakes the second time around. So if you're just starting, know that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things that you're like, shit, the fuck was I thinking? Why did I do that? Don't beat yourself up. Like, we don't beat clients up for not knowing that they shouldn't be using makeup wipes. I mean, like, okay, maybe they should know, but it's okay if they don't.
For sure.
We're there to educate them. So
right.
Take that as a learning experience and not beat yourself up because you didn't know. You only know as much as you know. You know, you can only learn as you go when it comes to building a business like this. And that's the best way to do it, is just to learn from your mistakes. Obviously, use these resources like your podcast and books and business courses and things like that, but don't overload yourself either. You have to learn what works for you and what's going to work for your business, unfortunately, the hard way.
I agree with you. I think sometimes when people are searching for too much information, it's like the true definition of information overload. And like you can end up going backwards when just like focusing on you. Don't make the room look like somebody else because that somebody has 20,000 followers on Instagram. Don't make like those, like don't choose a path just because people are choosing it. And especially when it comes to Savannah moving, when everyone, was telling her why you're so crazy, like you kept it true to yourself. And a year later, I know, because I've obviously talked to you beyond this podcast, that you're so happy, and that makes me so happy. I miss you, obviously, but
well, thank you. I miss you too, and I miss so many people back at home, but I know that this move was just exactly what I needed to blossom personally and for my business to bloom as well. The place that I just moved into is a healing center. So there's a bunch of massage therapists there and a lot of energy work that's going on there. And I did my first facial in there today and it was just incredible. Like the energy was perfect. When you guys see the view from my room, you're going to be like, yeah, no wonder she wanted to move to this location. No wonder she wanted to move to this valley.
Oh my gosh, you have to post it like ASAP, especially when this episode comes out.
I know. Okay, so tomorrow. All right. Well,
I mean, yeah, you'll have a couple of days.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna so my view though.
So let people know how they can find you.
Okay, so I am on Instagram at Southern Beauty Skin, which, yes, I did keep my name. I had many people ask me if I was going to do that, and I said, yes, for sure. That's going to make me stand out. So that's my advice. If you're moving across the country and you have a name that kind of talks about where you're from in some way, shape, or fashion, keep it. Don't change it. Don't conform to whatever. Stay true to yourself, like we were talking about. But yeah, Instagram is the best way to reach me. And if you're interested in anything that I talked about today, I'm an open book. Please reach out to me. And my email is the same, southernbeautyskin@gmail.com. So if you want to email me and that Instagram's not really your thing, you can totally do that as well.
Ugh, I love you. I'm so excited for this episode because of how long it's been since you've been on the last episode. I love you and all of your tips and nuggets that you share with the Waxing Podcast. And I cannot wait to see where you and I are this time next year.
Same. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me on again. I absolutely love doing this and I love sharing all things always.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.